Well, good morning or good afternoon everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, I'm going to be heading back up to Minnesota for the next installment on the Missabe Western railroad build. Now I know the last few installments in this series have been a little shorter than usual. That's because I was trying to break it down into logical segments. I'm not quite sure that the finished result was what I was looking for, but that's already water under the bridge. Although I've decided that I want to produce a longer video this time to make up for it. And I hope that's going to make my viewers happy. It's still not quite a full week's progress as I intended presenting, and I'll explain why later on. So if you want to find out what happened and why this is not quite a full week's presentation, you'll just have to watch to the end of the video. So without further ado, let's just get back to Minnesota and get busy. Well, welcome to week 2 of this layout build visit. If you recall last week, I got this temporary return loop section in to give continuous running on both decks. The bottom deck is completely done and tested. The top level has all the framing in, and I will finish that when I work on the bench work for the other side. But for the time being, the work I am doing is around this side in the paper mill and industrial area. Yesterday I got quite a lot of turnouts in, 22 of them. I have 4 more prepped and ready to go in. That will be the first task for today. The entry into the switching area over that side. There they all are waiting for me. And then I will move on to the entry into the upper helix and the interchange staging yard. All the main lines are complete, all the way from the lower helix and all the way through this town. All the way to this first entry crossover. So I'm just going to get to work now. Don't go away, I will check in with you periodically. Well, I've had enough fun for one day. I've got a fair bit done. I finished this corner in here, hooking up the upper helix and the lead tracks for the interchange staging yard. A couple of yards on the paper mill lead. Had to put some roadbed in there as well because that wasn't finished. Worked my way around the back here, got these turnouts in, put these together. And I've spent the last couple of hours fitting all these turnouts close together. There's 11 turnouts which had to almost overlap, and that was a lot of cutting and fitting, a lot of modification. I don't feel like actually installing them tonight, but all the holes are drilled through the bench work except the switch machines. Also a few bits of plain track have been installed around here in the front area as well as the back. All the little bits are in. Didn't get quite as much done today as I did yesterday, but then part of the day I was having to train somebody else, and that slows me down. Anyway, I'm reasonably happy with the progress, so I'm just going to close this down and I'll check in with you again tomorrow. Don't go away. I've just arrived for another day. I think it's Tuesday. I'm not 100% certain. And I was thinking about it last night. I probably should have been checking for shorts more frequently. But this morning I put a locomotive on the track and fired it up and it ran. So obviously I don't have any shorts. otherwise it wouldn't have worked. I can't run it very far because I don't have any switch machines in yet, and I'm relying on rail joiners for feeders, and also there's places where the rail is not continuous through the turnouts. Before I left last night, I got those 2 turnouts ready to install. I think there's about 11 more here that are all ready to go in. There's a couple that aren't, but these 2 are easy. They just go in as they are. 2 of the few turnouts that are actually going in this area without trimming. All of these turnouts here, I had to get them very close together. And my trick here is to cut the stock rail on the middle of the last copper turnout and unsolder the one that leads from the frog, and then trim the next turnout so that rail just butts up against the other one, and this one stops short here to give me the electrical gap. That way we can get these turnouts fitted very close together. It gets a bit more complicated where both legs of the turnout lead into new turnouts, and here I put one of them close and I put the other one back about an inch or so that there's room for the switch machines without fouling each other. And here I had to do the same thing. They're not lined up yet because I don't want to solder too many turnouts together before I install them. But also I'm in the middle of coming down from the 1/8 inch road bed to ground level, so these turnouts are right in the area that has to be shimmed. And of course this part of the tie base is very fragile and tends to break off with the slightest provocation because there's a very little gluing surface. It doesn't really matter, I just reinstall it as soon as the turnout's in place. Just slide it back underneath the rails because it's entirely cosmetic anyway. But the first job today is to get this mass of turnouts installed, and then after that it's pretty much plain sailing. So don't go away, I'll check in with you again later. Well, as you can see, all the track is installed except for these diagonal spurs which go through the opening and under the diesel yard. Obviously I can't get those in until the benchwork is finished over there. So let's walk down the rest of the length and we can see that everything is installed. I've also dropped all the feeder wires all the way from the top of the helix and all the way through town, including the green ones for the frogs, because of course all Fast Track's turnouts have live frogs, so they need their own feeder wire. I've still got a little bit of time left today. I'm going to get some of these soldered on. I don't have time to finish the job, but I'll see how far I get. Well, as you can see, I have got all the feeders soldered in this side of the road bridge. I haven't hooked up anything underneath yet. They're all just dangling down. But before I hook up anything at the bottom, I want to get the top finished and have a good clean up so I can get rid of all the debris and then make sure I don't have any shorts. At the moment there's almost certain to be metallic debris on the rails that would cause shorts, so I can't test anything. But that will all be a job for tomorrow. Right now it's time to head home, get some dinner. So don't go away, I will check in with you again tomorrow. Well, I have been here a couple of hours this morning, and as we can see I have finished soldering the top ends of all the feeders. I've also started collecting up all the tools because I need to do a major clean-up and do an electrical test before I continue. So don't go away, I'll check in with you again later. Well, I've gone round both decks and the floor, done a good clean-up because it was starting to get a bit messy. I've had a locomotive running as far as the end of power, and I've tested all these tracks for continuity just to make sure I don't have any shorts. I didn't expect to find any, and now I'm going to start hooking up the bottoms of the feeders. I think I'm going to start at the helix end and just work my way down. Well, although you can't see it on the top of the railroad, if I look underneath, we can see that all the feeders have been hooked up top and bottom. The only things still hanging down are the green wires that go to the frogs, and there are 52 of those, 48 turnouts and 2 crossings. So that's a lot of wires still to hook up. I've just started prepping switch machines, and I will start installing those tomorrow. It's going to take me more than a day to install them, but I've just started prepping a batch. Here they are down there. So I'm going to head home now. Well, actually I'm going to head to the hotel, and I will check in with you again tomorrow. Don't go away. Well, today has come to an end. It's kind of late. It's starting to get dark outside. I have installed and tested all those switch machines on this side of the bridge. 19 of them, including several crossover pairs. If you look underneath, everything is all finished. And I have prepped a whole load of switch machines for this end, not all of them by any means. I've got all the master-slave pairs for the crossovers ready to go in tomorrow morning. I still have a whole load more of the single switch machines to prep for the yard ladder in the back. But I've probably got more than I can do in one more day. So I'm probably going to be into Friday morning doing switch machines. Anyway, I'm going to check out now, head home, or head back to the hotel, and I'll check in with you again tomorrow. Don't go away. Well, today is Thursday. I've just realized that yesterday was the halfway point of the trip. It was day 11 out of 21. And I have got less than half of what I wanted to done. Mainly that is because of the troubleshooting and track cleaning that I spent the first 2 days on. So I'm going to have to step up the pace a bit if I want to get finished. Hopefully I can get the majority of these switch machines in today. I might even stay late and finish them. Well, it's just after 6 o'clock today. I've had enough. And if you look at the top of the railroad, not much has changed. If we look underneath, you'll notice 2 things. One is a big mess, and the other is that all the way along, all the wires are hooked up. I have installed and tested 29 switch machines today, which I think is pretty good going. So this entire district is now done both mechanically and electrically. My original plan for this morning was to start by getting all these turnout controllers moved to the fascia. But the wire extensions that I ordered are due for delivery this afternoon. So rather than temporarily borrow them from the existing controllers, I'm just going to wait. So instead, I have started on this side. I'm going to get the benchwork finished for the main freight yard. As you can see, I've already started working on where the tops are going to be cut. The diesel yard is going to be at a somewhat higher elevation with a long grade up the back. And also I'm going to get the main lines slightly higher than the yard. Which is why I've cut this along there. I haven't drawn the line in yet. And then this end, the grades are going to be quite complicated, which is why I'm just working on it slowly. I don't want to make a mistake. And while I've been doing all that, Chris has been working on this upper level turnaround. This is how far he's got. If you recall, last time we saw it, the framing was in for the upper level. He's put the roadbed in, got the fences on, and he's starting to lay the track. As you can see, he's just come around the curve. He's got 2 yards on each track. he's not going to be able to get all of it in. He can come to the end of this curve, and then we're going to have to work from the other end once we know exactly what we've got to deal with at this end. At the moment this is only a guess, but being 9 inches wide, we've got some tolerance. So look what he's done in there. Yep, that looks reasonable. The customer wanted to get him working on all aspects of the construction, and this was a good area to set him loose by himself, because it's only temporary, so if he doesn't get it quite right, it will eventually be ripped out and improved anyway. But I think he's doing okay. Well, I've done the easy part. I had to add some extra framing in here to support this piece at the front, and then everything that is at standard freight yard height has already been installed. All this plywood at the front is now permanently screwed down. I'm still missing a piece in here. Chris has gone to cut that for me. And now I need to figure out the elevations for the grades at the back. I'm going to raise the main line up just a little bit. I haven't decided exactly how much yet. I'm thinking I can probably get about a ½ an inch without running into problems with the grades. That end is easy. I could gain 2 inches there if I wanted to, but I don't have a lot of space here. I think ½ an inch is all I can get. But I've now got this complicated grade area pretty much perfect. I used a whole load of different thickness of shims until I had the right combination at every riser. And I eventually decided to go with a 3/8 step for the main line instead of a ½ inch. So all these pieces along here are trimmed down on the table saw to 3/8 thick. And where I have to splice the sub-roadbed, I just bridged two joists. The end curve was done exactly the same way. That is now finished, apart from the foam, of course. But anyway, let's just get this installed. I've done the hard part. It should be plain sailing from now on. The next thing to do is just to screw down this piece of sub-roadbed. Well, my box of extension cables arrived this afternoon, so I have left this benchwork incomplete, and just before closing up shop today, I have now moved all these fascia controls to the front edge of the benchwork so that this part of the railroad can be operated. Obviously these are only temporarily installed. We haven't decided exactly what we want in the way of positioning yet. We might just end up drilling holes in the fascia and putting them in a row, or we may end up with control panels, I don't know. That will be something to decide later on, but for now the railroad can be used and all these switches are operational. With all the fascia controllers temporarily installed on the front edge over this side of the benchwork, that brings up the end of Saturday, which means that is the end of 2 weeks' work. Tomorrow will be Sunday, and that will be the start of a new video. Well, that's all for this week's video. I promised earlier that I would explain why it's not a full week's progress. If I hadn't have said anything, you'd probably be thinking it was a full week. But as I was recording the introduction for the Monday morning video, I realized it was still Sunday. I had inadvertently gained a day. I don't know what went wrong. When I was filming the final segment of this installment, I just had a brain fart. I thought it was Saturday. It turned out it was only Friday. But rather than try to undo all the narrative and re-record, I just left everything the way it was. So that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.